Very unique situation.
So will you explain to our voters, the residents, I should say, what is actually happening?
Okay. What's happened here is that the school is proposing, and I may not be the right spokesperson for this, but explaining it. But basically, the school has made the statement that what they want to do, and they've presented us with the papers, they're going to start a petition. They need to go out and gain signatures to basically get approval for a plan that they want, as opposed to the plan that now has come to us. And I'll speak to the differences here in just a second. But nevertheless, this is what the school believes is best for the school. Now, it's very unique. There are only two similar situations that we've ever had, and nothing to this scale. So what we need to do is make sure as a city that we understand the difference between what is going to be in front of us on the 30th and ultimately what they're going to propose. For the record, on the meeting on the 30th, we will not be discussing their proposal. We're going to be discussing what they've applied for. Now, we did a cursory comparison between what they've proposed and what's in front of us. And basically, along with some other items, but the single largest item is the fact that they're asking for dorms to be put back on the property. That was, those dorms were, let's see, they knew where the only decisions ever made on this, by the way, have been by the Planning Commission. And the Planning Commission let it be known that they weren't keen about the dorms. The school, removed them from the proposal so that they didn't come back.
Because beyond the dorms, they're making massive improvements to the campus, including...
Yes, ma'am. They're refurbishing virtually all their buildings. They have, some of them will be, very nice and beautiful and a great improvement to that. But they also want to relocate their soccer field. They have other plans, other items. One of the, I think there are three differences. I was about to say four, but three principal differences. The student dorms, soccer field location, and time phasing. They have heard from us that we were concerned about the length of this. Now, I should explain to everybody, and people should understand, this is the first time that the City Council really has an opportunity to make a decision on anything related to Marymount.
And this has been going on for 10 years.
It's been going on for 10 years. They've been to the Planning Commission. Everybody can read about that history. But then they came to us in September, and we thought we were ready then for decisions, deliberations, taking testimony and all that. Just prior to that meeting, like just prior, either the day before or that day, we learned that they were wanting to go from a 2- to a 4-year school. Now, I can't discuss the merits of that because I didn't know. I'm not a student of educational facilities and the impact that they have on the community, so we needed some help. So we asked for two things during that meeting. We didn't make any decisions. We asked for two things to help us along. One, tell us the differences between a 2-year and a 4-year school. Do you have more traffic? Do you have, students are capped, but do you change the mix between student and faculties? What impact does that really have on traffic and the environment? None of us knew, so we needed help with that. Secondly, we asked, because, and this is an issue that has been of concern to me, is the location of the soccer field. And I said, my issue regarding the soccer field location is safety, whether or not any soccer balls could find their way into Paddlesbury Drive east. So that's part of that study that was done. Okay, so now that EIR has been completed. We've seen that addendum. Now we have the reports that are being rewritten, and all this will come back to us, and that's what we're going to discuss. So if people are thinking, I'm going to come to the City Council meeting on the 30th and discuss their new initiative proposal, no, we're not going to do that. What we're going to be, because first of all, that won't be on our agenda. What will be on our agenda will be the issue, the proposal that they're putting forward, or they have put forward. And they could change their mind and take that off,
But if they do push forward and they get the signatures and they put this measure on the ballot and let the residents decide whether these dorms should go forward and everything, and it was approved, then does the city have recourse, or that's that? If they... That's a good question.
We probably need the city attorney in here to talk about the nuances between them. It's my understanding that if they put put it forward as an initiative, that then indeed that would take precedent over what approvals we might have. Although there are, the building items are still subject to planning checks and safety inspections and those kinds of things. I can't speak to all the rest of it. As I said, we are in uncharted waters. We don't know. We're taking this a step at a time. And I don't want to rush through any of this. I want to make sure that we do our job, speaking of what the City Council is about, and then I will let the rest of it unfold. It is unique in the fact that what it does, it's going around established city government. Now, I haven't run into that before.
Right, I was going to ask you if this in all years of being on the council. And I didn't know, too, if there's anything as we wrap up Marymount, if there are any misconceptions or myths. You know, I think the challenge is that obviously we all think of Marymount as a great neighbor and a very important part of the community, but then you're in a tough spot when it gets contentious like this, and is that they know what they want, the city's looking out for city interests and all of that. So,
well, what happens?
How can it become win-win? I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure. As a matter of fact, Liz, I'm not. I cannot see. Somebody is not going to be happy about something, as may happen with any issues that relate to neighbors. We have a very well-informed neighborhood because they have to live with that. We have residents elsewhere in the city that don't live there. In others, they view this as an issue between neighbors. Ultimately, if the issue relating to the dorms, and it's been asserted, I'm not going to go into this right now, that it relates to high-density development, then indeed that might garner more interest from the community. But I'm going to let that unfold. That is not for the City Council right now to discuss. We may be gathering information about it, but
so stay tuned and keep going to that city website for all the updates.
Yes, ma'am. And I'll focus on what's going to happen on the 30th.
And now just sort of looking at some of the latest council actions, the last council meeting,
yes, ma'am.
Parking and parking fees was what was going on. And for one, oversized vehicles, you've wrapped that up?
Yes, ma'am, we did. Yeah.
Pulled no stops? Explain to residents what's happened with oversized vehicles.
All right. There were two issues that came up in front of us, and they got linked together a couple of years ago. The issue of oversized vehicles was a concern from a number of neighborhoods. And it's kind of interesting, you know, the city of Torrance went through something very similar regarding their oversized vehicles. Basically what they were trying to do was prevent people from just parking them full-time at the detriment of their neighbors. Torrance passed a resolution, and within a couple weeks, maybe a couple days, all of a sudden we had streets along Western Avenue start filling up with, you know, these oversized vehicles looking for parking spaces. So it became a problem for our residents too. At any rate, we passed in...
last June?
It actually went back to November.
Okay.
Really following. August of 2008, we brought it up. Both Dr. Gardner and I had been concerned about it. Dr. Gardner made the proposal. And so what happened was, then it went to June, and then finally it came up for us. And we agreed that oversized vehicles needed to be controlled. That issue was there. And what we did on the last meeting is we came up with the fees. The fees that staff had proposed, kind of interesting. One councilman thought that they were too high. One councilman thought that they were too low. We ultimately just cut them in half from what staff proposed because we wanted to move forward with that. So oversized vehicles are now done in terms of policy and in terms of fees.
And what were the fees?
$100.
Okay.
We cut that in half. The renewal fee was $60. We cut that to $30.
Okay, that's
and guest parking passes were, I think they went from $100 to $50, something like that. By the way, the sticker, the decal remained at $1.25.
There you go.